Hidden away in High Point is one of our state's most fascinating businesses, a company that has specialized in the same ubiquitous product since 1936. A product that virtually everyone in North Carolina is likely to be intimately familiar with, the yellow school bus. Starting in 1916, the Pearlie A. Thomas Car Works made streetcars until that mode of transportation became outdated. So Thomas switched to making school buses. And over the years, a lot of them. If you're into school buses, this is your field of dreams. Thomas-built buses come in 3 basic sizes, essentially small, medium, and large, depending on passenger capacity and use for various school, commercial, and specialty applications. You'd expect that kind of variety from North America's leading bus manufacturer. How do you build a bus? As it turns out, very methodically and to the highest standards.
Probably no one understands that school buses are the most heavily regulated vehicles on the road today. There are a number of federal motor vehicle safety standards that apply only to school buses. One example, every joint on a school bus has to be 60% as strong as the parent steel. So in other words, if you take a 10,000-pound tensile strength of a piece of steel, where those joints come together, it has to be 6,000 pounds at that joint. Another requirement is rollover strength. The roof of the vehicle has to support 1.5 times the weight of the entire vehicle so the roof doesn't collapse in the unlikely event of a rollover. Seating in school buses is very unique. It has to meet certain requirements for deflection, for energy absorption, for height, for width, for distance between the seats. All of that is called compartmentalization. And I can go on and on. Fuel tanks on all of the school buses are surrounded by fuel cages, warning lights, stop arms, the number of emergency exits, push-out windows, rear emergency doors, side emergency doors. All of those things are unique to school buses.
Making a school bus body to satisfy federal government regulations, the specs of each of 50 states, 11 Canadian provinces, and countless individual customers, each made to order, is a complicated affair.
If you look at that all together, we have in excess of 20,000 options. Years ago, we did some research. A leading manufacturer's #1 brand of automobile had a grand total of 285 total options. And on school buses, there's in excess of 20,000.
Construction begins with the basics, raw material, which is cut, shaped, welded, assembled, riveted, moved around a lot, painted, outfitted with interiors and accessories, tested, inspected, and finally driven out the door. That's a dramatically distilled version of how Thomas has made custom-built school buses for years. But there's now also a more high-tech way. Thanks to Thomas's relatively new parent company, Daimler AG, the maker of Mercedes-Benz.
Daimler is the world's largest manufacturer of commercial vehicles. They've brought some incredible technology to us that we actually employ in our C2 facility.
And a large chunk of the Daimler contribution was robotics.
The first robotic technology is when we're actually applying the structural adhesive to the frame structure of the bus. It has to be applied consistently and the robots do that for us. It's 2 times stronger than the normal panels that are applied with rivets and screws. So you get twice the bonding power with the structural adhesive. The other robotic technology that we employ at this facility is in our paint booth. That also provides a very consistent finish and actually significant savings in the amount of paint that's used because it's being done very consistently with the robots. And the other form of robotic technology that we use here is actually to move the buses around. We actually have a robot that picks up the bus body, delivers it to that particular mounting station. Once the body is actually lifted off of the truck, as it's referred to, then that robot will take the truck back to the staging area for it to be used on a new bus body as part of the manufacturing process. So we affectionately refer to that robot as R2C2. There is a robotic welding area where we're actually welding the floor sections together. We can put the floor sections into this robotic welding cell and it will very consistently and very efficiently weld all of the components together for the floor structure. Well, the key is the consistency. It does it the same way every single solitary time, so you can count on the consistency of the welds, consistency of the application of the structural adhesive, the consistency of the application of the paint. You don't have to worry about injuries and things of that sort when you're moving these large bus bodies around because the robot's doing it for you.
Product improvement never stops at Thomas Built Buses. A bus that comes off the line today benefits from all the advances in design and technology that have come before it. And fresh ideas are constantly being introduced.
Just this year, we have gotten into the hybrid electric business. It travels the first 1/8 of a mile on electric power and then switches over to diesel power. It's a perfect application for school buses because school buses start and stop.
Thomas also builds buses that run on compressed natural gas, but most of the buses that roll out of Thomas's doors today are diesel. And of course, all the work of suppliers, management, and the people who design, build, and service Thomas Built Buses boils down to one single elegant commitment: to build the kind of bus we'd want our children to ride in.
You're making a difference. You're transporting children to and from school safely, efficiently, economically, environmentally sound every day of the week.
Which is why there are so many second and even third generation Thomas employees.
I'm a second generation Thomas employee. My dad worked for Thomas Built Buses for 40 years, and I've been employed full-time with Thomas Built Buses for 23 years. Thomas is a very, very good company to work for.
But there seems to be yet one very important question yet unanswered. And that is, does a school bus always have to be yellow?
No. Contrary to popular belief, the color is not a federal requirement. Yellow was actually selected in 1939 in the first National Standards Conference. They chose what was referred to as National School Bus Chrome Yellow because it was unique, it stood out, and it would easily be identified as a school bus. Every state in the Union, though, and every province in Canada has selected National School Bus Chrome Yellow as their standard color.
So now you know. School buses are yellow because they are. In fact, now you know even more than you ever imagined you would know about these yellow school buses you see traveling to and from school every year with their precious passengers. And now you also know that a healthy portion of them are Thomas Built Buses, made right here in our state.